I'm joined here today with Peter Quinlan, who's a meteorologist with Global News Saskatoon. So Peter, why don't you just tell me about the kind of weather we can expect for the rest of February?
So it looks like the next week is going to be very cold, right through into the middle of next week, which for some is reading weekend. It is going to be kind of the situation where we have minus 20 daytime highs, minus 30 overnight lows, or around kind of the minus 30 mark, and morning wind chills around that extreme cold warning criteria of minus 40 or colder, right through into the middle of next week.
So you mentioned this reading week coming up, and of course it's the long weekend for lots of people. Can you tell me about the kind of conditions drivers can expect and what they can do to stay safe on the road?
Driving wise, we should be mostly okay. The roads are a little bit icy. We don't really have any major snowfalls expected. It's just kind of maybe a few light flurries here or there. It's just really the cold you're going to have to contend with. So if your vehicle does break down, you want to make sure you have a winter emergency kit handy, blankets, ways to stay warm, and some food as well.
And we're nearing the tail end of winter now. The days are getting much longer, which is always nice to see. Can you tell me what kind of spring we can expect to have?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people want to know, when's it going to warm up? Is it going to warm up? Well, it will potentially in the last week of February, and even by the end of next week, we'll start to see a bit of a warm up. It's a little early to say exactly how March will pan out. It may end up being colder than average throughout the kind of middle period as we approach spring. So it does look like we'll stay with a colder than normal trend. That said, though, we've been well below normal by almost 10 degrees, which is almost unheard of. Lloydminster normal high is minus 7 for this time of year, kind of an average temperature in the minus 13 range. And so far this February, we've been at minus 22. So that is quite a lot below normal. And it does look like we'll stick with this below normal trend temperature wise into March, and then potentially getting to some above average conditions this summer.
All right, and what role does wind play in giving us these colder than average days?
Yeah, so it doesn't take much of a breeze when our temperatures are around the minus 30 mark to make it feel 10 to 15 degrees colder than the raw air temperature. It's what we call wind chill, and basically when it's windy or you're creating your own wind chill, it swipes away this warm insulating layer of air that warms just outside of your skin, and that gives us a colder perceived temperature than the actual raw temperature would be. So even though we've been seeing those overnight lows in the Lloydminster area around that minus 29, minus 30 mark, even with just a 15 or so kilometer per hour breeze, that's feeling more like the mid minus 30s toward the minus 40s. So it is significant, and it can be quite serious. If you get frostbite, that can result in frozen skin and the need for amputation.
All right, and my last question for you is, do you have any tips on beating the cold?
Yeah, so it's very important to make sure you're bundling up on these extremely cold days with no exposed skin, even your face, wearing a balaclava. Of course, the toucan mitts, your ears are extra vulnerable, your fingers as well. So those little hot packs can be helpful in your mitts and your shoes or your boots if you are out for an extended period of time. Take it very seriously if you're saying going out skiing. Even your cheeks are vulnerable, so take breaks indoors if you are able to do that. And try not to be out for prolonged periods of time. Check in on those who are extra vulnerable, especially in this extreme cold prolonged period.
Those are all the questions I have for you today. Thank you for joining me, Peter.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Layton.